All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Solids Management Upgrades Incinerator System Supplier RFQ meeting. That is quite a mouthful. So throughout this meeting, you might hear us refer to it as the SMU ISS RFQ or just the ISS RFQ. My name is Beth McCoy, and I'm a public affairs specialist here with MSD. And I can tell you MSD is very excited about this project and very excited to have you all here today to talk about the ISS RFQ. My role today is mostly just to make sure that the technology runs smoothly. So I'll mostly be in the background, but before we get started, I did want to go over just a couple things with all of you, make sure we're all on the same page and familiar with the tools we're using. So first and foremost, you might notice that you're in what's called listen and view mode. And basically what that means is you can see and hear us, but we can't see or hear you. Now, with that in mind, we do want to interact with you today and take your questions. So to do that, we'll be using the Q&A tool. So if you are joining us today on a computer, a tablet, or a smartphone, if you wiggle your mouse or tap on your screen, you should see a menu bar pop up. And one of those items will be Q&A. So if you click on that, you can enter your questions there at any time. Now, we are going to wait until the end of the presentation for a live Q&A where we'll address some of those questions. But Jerry Young, who's the project manager, will be keeping an eye on those throughout the meeting, and we'll make sure that we get all of those questions addressed appropriately. Now, we do have some ground rules with those questions. So first, just because this meeting is specifically about the ISS RFQ, we'll only be taking questions from firms capable of submitting a response to this RFQ. So if you are not capable of submitting a response to this RFQ, you can certainly still submit your questions. We just won't address them live, and instead we'll follow up with you individually as appropriate after the meeting. Similarly, we're going to do our best to provide as much information today as we can. But with that in mind, just due to the nature of this meeting and the topic that we're talking about, there's a very good chance that most, if not all of the questions that you submit today are going to be things we're going to need to gather some more information on before we can give you an answer. And so the way that we're going to do that is through an addendum after this meeting. So every question that you submit that is related to the ISS RFQ will be featured in that addendum. And that's where we're going to post the official response to those questions. So while today we're going to do our best to provide what information we can, that's going to be your official answer source. And with that in mind, if you submit questions that are not related to this ISS RFQ, again, like I said, those won't be in the addendum. Instead, we'll follow up individually as appropriate. So that's all I have. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Brad Nevoy.
Thank you, Beth. My name is Brad Nevoy, as Beth said. I'm Assistant Director of Engineering here at MSD. We appreciate your time today. We're excited, as Beth said, we're excited about this project. It's an important project for us and we're ready to get it going. Today, we're going to focus on that ISS pre-qualification. But before we get into the details, we probably should cover some groundwork here. We have some new attendees here for the first time. So we'll do some brief introductions on our side. We wish we could be with you in person today, but obviously that's still not available to us. Hopefully we'll get all this behind us soon. We can meet in person. Besides myself here today, we have Bentley Green, who's going to speak in a little while. Bentley's with Black & Veatch. Black & Veatch heads up the owner's representative team on this project. First of all, on our agenda today, I'm going to give you a quick overview of MSD, and then I'm going to turn it over to Bentley, and he's going to go through the details of the RFQ. You will have an opportunity, as Beth said, to submit questions at the end of the presentation, and questions can be submitted by email as well. All those will be officially responded to in an addendum, as she mentioned. Finally, we are offering meetings with design build teams with our management group. If you want that, would like a meeting and you're a design build team, Bentley's going to talk about that at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as I mentioned, background on MSD, we are a government utility, excuse me. We're actually two utilities in one, wastewater and stormwater. We always point that out because we actually have separate funding mechanism for the two pieces of our business. This is a wastewater project, as you know. This is wholly funded by our wastewater rate. The funding for this project is already in place. I wanted to mention that. MSD serves around 1.3 million customers. And inside our service area, we have 88 municipalities. That's somewhat unique to the St. Louis region, all the little municipalities in this area. We are the fourth largest sewer system in the US. We have 7 treatment plants. This project in particular is going to be working at 2 of our bigger plants, Lemay and our Bissell plant. In total, we treat, excuse me, we treat around 350 million gallons of wastewater every day. We operate and maintain a whole bunch of miles of sewer, both sanitary combined and storm sewer. The last thing I wanted to talk about before I turn it over to Bentley, I mentioned, we are excited about this project, and a lot of the progress being made is due to the Black & Veatch team. Next slide, please. Black & Veatch, as I mentioned, is heading up the owner's representative team. You can see all their different teaming partners here, and they'll be representing us as we go through the design build process. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Bentley Green with Black & Veatch. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Just double checking, make sure I haven't had a glitch here. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, yes. Good. All right. Thank you. All right. So I will get this started with the discussion about the project, and then we'll get into the SOQ and the RFQ requirements. Obviously, this is a huge project for the district. It's a major upgrade at their 2 largest wastewater facilities, the Bissell Point plant and the Lemay plant. This is basically replacing the existing multiple hearth incinerators that have been in use since the 1960s. So they're currently about 50-something years old. This project will consist of a major upgrade, including a lot of different facilities and process components, including dewatering, offloading stations, building facilities, and of course, a lot of site work and so forth. Because of the unique nature of these of this system for biosolid stabilization, we have made the decision with the district to pre-qualify the fluidized bed incinerator. I'll call it the FBI system, our incinerator system supplier. We got a lot of anagrams here. To pre-qualify vendors who are capable of delivering the project and delivering the scope of the project as outlined here. The pre-qualification process will primarily consist of those items that are shown in red. Obviously, that's not everything that would be included, but that's the primary process components. Those of you who have been tracking this project for a while are probably well aware that we have identified a couple of these items as probably going to fall off of our delivery and scope list here, but that's not 100% certain at this time, and those could be added back in the future. So we do want to hear from incinerator system supplier vendors who have experience with all of these systems as noted. Obviously, this is, again, a unique process. The pre-qual consists of the FBI treatment trains, which primarily consist of the reactor and all of the emission components that go with that. That includes fluidized bed air blowers, the heat exchangers, conditioning and primary heat exchangers, scrubber, wet electrostatic precipitator, if that's included, the granular activated carbon system, as well as the induced draft fan and incinerator stack. That's really the primary element of the FBI treatment train. Now, with that, we will have, as part of this project, and it will be one project, we'll have 7 treatment trains, 4 at the Bissell Point plant and 3 at the Lee May plant. Each of these 7 treatment trains are rated at 80 dry tons per day capacity. And so with 1 unit or 1 train out of service at each facility, the Bissell Point plant would have 240 dry ton per day capacity, and the Lee May facility would have 160 dry ton per day capacity. We did look at a number of different configurations as we developed our current design scope. We looked at larger units and less treatment trains. We looked at smaller trains and with more trains, and we ultimately decided that the 80 dry ton per day capacity train was the optimal choice for us. Okay. And one thing I would like to add at this point, I should have said this at the outset, and Bess and Brad have mentioned this as well, especially when we get to the question phase, is that we'll try to answer questions and so forth, but whatever we say in here, just in case we misspeak, and especially if I misspeak, rely on the written word of the addendum that will come out of the meeting. So if I say something and the addendum comes out and says the exact opposite, rely on the addendum. So the written word will trump the verbal here. But with that said, obviously we are, as the owner's rep, moving forward with the preliminary design of the project at both facilities. At this point in time, we have identified the location where the facilities will go for the Bissell Point plant. That's between the maintenance facilities and the current ash basins, ash storage basins. And that's our preliminary layout. Obviously, that's subject to change, and that could potentially change once we have selected design build teams to shortlist for this proposal. So, but that's where we're at right now, and that's the current layout that we've been able to develop thus far. Lee May is a little bit different. Lee May is the location that we had identified for Lee May is where their current maintenance facilities are located, just to the north of their existing solids treatment facilities. So for the Lee May facilities to be constructed, the maintenance facilities will have to be relocated, and then the existing maintenance facility will obviously have to be demolished so that the new FBI facilities can be built on that spot. As noted, this is pre-qualifying an ISS vendor and our vendors. And ultimately that will lead into a contract with the selected design build team. That means that the ISS vendor who is ultimately selected along with the design builder who is ultimately selected will enter into a subcontract with each other, and that and the design builder will obviously have a primary contract with the district. That will be an EJCDC contract for design build with D520 agreement between the district and the design builder, and D700 general conditions between those two. Our RFQ process for the design build procurement, it will begin in the second half of this year in July, and will proceed through the biggest part of the year, with selection anticipated in November of this year. At that point in time, we're looking at developing a short list of 3 design build teams and issuing an RFP process for them to complete. As part of that RFP procurement process, we would include design plans and specification along with other administrative items, but the design plans and specifications are generally developed to about a 30% completion level. The design build teams would then take that information and develop their own advancement of the design to the point that they're obviously developing their project understanding, their project approach, and their delivery capacity. And then as part of that, that will also include a fixed price component that they will be submitting as part of their proposal package. That would then go to the board, the district's board, for approval, with a notice to proceed expected to be issued in the first part of the second quarter in 2023. And then that design build team would then be under contract through construction and through startup all the way through 2026. Now getting to the SOQ submittal process. Again, key dates here, we're looking at April 23rd for the submittal. We realize this pre-qualification process includes entities that are normally not submitting formal qualifications. And so what I would encourage you to do is to submit test documents to the plan room. That's where this is an electronic plan room submittal. And so I would encourage you to submit a test document, make sure that there's no technical glitches to that. Let me know when you've done that. I will work with the district and confirm that the document was properly uploaded and properly received. Don't want to get you to April 23rd and then figure out that there's some glitch and you didn't get your submittal in on time. As Bess and Brad both said, two addenda have been issued to date. All plan holders should be notified on a prompt basis when an additional addenda or addendum has been issued. If there's any glitch in that system and you did not get a notification, please check the plan room website for all of the latest addenda before you submit your statement of qualifications. Okay, now with the SOQ format, we are, again, it's fairly self-explanatory. The content is fairly self-explanatory. I'm certain that the manufacturers are well versed in submitting most of the requirements that have been asked for here. It may just be that this is a formal and structured methodology for which this information is being asked. One of the district requirements is that we usually put a page limit on the qualification submittals, and this one has one as well. There's a 25-page limit. That covers sections 1 through 6. All of the other criteria as identified that would be a part of your overall submittal do not count against that page limit. So that includes the information that would count towards the page limit is company information, your key personnel, your project understanding and experience, your delivery capacity and approach, and then your safety program and record along with your financial strength narrative. Okay, so for the compliance, or excuse me, the evaluation part, there, of course, the cover page and checklist and table of contents, that's just evaluated just for general compliance to help you structure the document that you're submitting. The meat of what will be assessed obviously will be your company information, the qualifications of your personnel and their experience, particularly your project manager, your technical lead, your startup training lead. Those are all well defined in the RFQ. If you've got questions about those, let us know. Project understanding and relative experience. Again, the district is looking for the basic information here as to what projects have you done, how do they relate to what the scope is that we're looking for the Bissell Point and Lee May facilities. And then lastly, the fourth item there that will be scored is delivery capacity and approach and performance guarantee. Obviously, we want to understand what your plan is for being able to deliver a project of this scope and magnitude, and that once it is built and successfully in operation, we're looking at a facility that can meet the new FBI MACT 4L requirements. So as you know, there's going to be some fairly stringent emission requirements, and this will be part of the performance guarantee that is expected from the ISS vendor. Safety program and record, we list the EMR requirements. If there's that requirement is to have an EMR of 1.0 or less. If there's a submittal that or a submitter whose safety record does not meet that criteria, an exemption request would need to be made as part of that submittal. And of course, then the financial strength narrative just provides the district some assurance that you have the financial wherewithal to deliver the project. All right, so I've harped on this and I'll say it one more time. This is an electronic submittal submitted to the MSD plan room at stlmsdplanroom.com. Because we do have entities that are submitting that probably have not submitted qualifications or proposals before, do encourage you to submit a test document between now and then. Shoot me an email, let me know that you've done that. We'll get the confirmation that everything was done properly. And if there is a glitch, we can get it figured out before that key date of 2 p.m. Central Time, April 23rd, 2021. And so with that, we've got to the question and answer stage. Again, if you have questions, we're looking at questions that we will be addressing mostly in writing. If you have general questions, I know we have a lot of interested parties that are participating in the call today, and we certainly appreciate and encourage that. However, if their interest is related to subcontracting opportunities or the design build portion of the program, that's a different forum, and we're certainly interested in talking to you in a different forum. So reach out to me or reach out to the general email address shown there at smu@stlmsd.com for additional information related to questions that you might have that are not specific to the vendor submittal today. So with that, Bess, I'm going to turn it back to you and we'll start with the Q&A session.
Yes, thank you so much, Bentley. Thanks for all that great information. As Bentley mentioned, we're going to move into the live Q&A. So as a reminder, if you have questions that you'd like to ask during this meeting, you can do so using the Q&A tool. And to get there, either wiggle your mouse or tap on your screen. And then when the menu bar pops up, click Q&A and you can submit your questions there. Now, just a quick reminder about the ground rules for those questions. First, we'll only be answering questions from those who are capable of submitting a response to this RFQ. And then also we'll only be answering questions related to this specific RFQ. So if you have other questions, you're certainly welcome to submit them. We'll just follow up later. And one other item I did want to touch on before we get into the Q&A, we would like to have as accurate of reporting on this as possible. So I see a few of you joined us by phone today, which is great. But if you wouldn't mind sending us an email just with your name and your organization, letting us know that you attended today. That way we can keep an accurate list of attendees. And you can submit that to that same email there, smu@stlmsd.com. All right, we'll take a look at our questions. First of all, Jeff asks, will this recording be made available on msdprojectclear.org/SMU? Yes, we will be. Yes, this recording will be posted there shortly. It does take a little bit of time for that to get rendered and to get it posted. So I would look for that later tonight or early tomorrow morning. It should be live there. Now, the purpose of us recording this and posting it there is really just to make sure that we're getting this information to as many people as possible. As Bentley mentioned earlier, and I think I mentioned as well, the addendum is going to be the official source of information for any questions that you're asked. So While we're certainly trying to provide as much information as we can, that's going to be your official answer source. So look for that for answers to questions. Let's see, not seeing any more questions, but we'll give it a minute just in case folks are typing. Again, as Bentley mentioned, there is that web page, www.msdprojectclear.org/SMU. And that's going to be the best place to find all the project related information. If you haven't already done so, you can sign up to receive alerts there as well. And of course, if you have questions, you can reach out to Bentley using his contact information there, or to the SMU inbox, smu@stlmsd.com. All right, we have one more question from John. John asks, the last day for questions is April 16. When do you anticipate response to questions sent in? Bentley, I'll turn that one over to you. Let's see, Bentley, if you're talking, you're muted right now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Actually, I was just having more mouse trouble than anything. All right. So yes, the last date for questions is April 16th. We would anticipate getting you answers within a couple of day period following that. We'd probably try to even get those answers out the next day, just so that if they have any kind of an impact, assuming that they're all minor questions, we wouldn't anticipate modifying the date of the submittal. If there was a question that really dictated something of a major response that needed to be addressed, obviously we would consider a modification to the submittal date at that point in time to make sure that everybody's had a chance to appropriately address it. And I would also like to acknowledge that we have had 2 vendors that have submitted written responses at this point in time. I just wanted to acknowledge that to those 2 vendors and to let them know that their questions and our responses to those questions will be included in the written addenda.
Thanks, Bentley.
And I think that was one of the questions I see from Jim Hopkins. So.
All right, we'll give it just another minute. So if you have questions that you'd like to submit during this meeting, please do so now. Again, otherwise, we're certainly open to questions again through April 16th. So you can submit those using the email address on the screen, greenb2@bv.com. That will go directly to Bentley. All right, well, not seeing any more questions. I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. As Brad and I both mentioned, we're very excited about this project and very excited that you all are interested. Also, huge thank you to Bentley for sharing all that wonderful information and for all your work on this. Again, please use all of the contact information listed here to find additional information or to reach out to us at any time. And like I said, this will be recorded and will be posted on that web page, hopefully by early tomorrow morning. And again, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to your interest in this project. Thanks, everyone.